Salutations, respected viewers. I am George from Ireland, speaking to you from a secret location. Or maybe you can figure it out. Anyway, so here I am at Le Louvre, this famous art gallery in Paris, and it's absolutely gigantic. I wonder if it's the largest art gallery in the world. You're just seeing a bit of it. I'll pan around. So it's got various wings, Denon, Seuil, I think one is pronounced, I can't even remember the others, Richelieu, and there are more. So it's in three distinct parts, but they all connect, as you can walk between them. You don't have to go walk outside. Then this glass pyramid, when I first came in here, age 7, that didn't exist, but that's actually the entrance. You walk in there underground and through. So Le Louvre has been around for many centuries, and I'll walk around a bit of it, the exterior, just to give you some idea of its enormous proportions. Anyway, so it was a castle built in the 12th century, and when you go into the entrance, you actually see some of the foundations of the medieval castle wall, and you could walk around the whole thing for days. So you can't do it justice in just one day, even if you come opening time and stay till you get kicked out. It's open late on Wednesday evenings. Now, mercifully this year, there are rather few tourists because of coronavirus. Okay, I know coronavirus is not a mercy, but to those, I suppose, who are struggling in agony anyway. But it is actually an exceptionally good August to visit, because normally the place is overrun with hordes of tourists and just gaggles of school children. But the French tend to get out of town at Paris. About Paris, you know, they can in August and go to La Côte d'Azur or wherever. That's a more expensive coast. The Atlantic coast is cheaper, well, there's more of it, and the water's colder and wilder because it's oceanic. Anyway, so then it was eventually turned into an art gallery and built in many different phases. So it's just got tens of thousands of works of art. The Mona Lisa, perhaps most famously. There's La Flotte de Méduse, about some Frenchmen whose ship sank and they all gathered on this raft and tried to survive. There's a hellish scene. And there is that statue of Victory spreading her wings, but she's somehow been decapitated over the centuries. So anyway, we're right in the center of Paris. There's a Faubourg Saint-Antoine, if I got that right, just over that away. A great youth hostel at Rue Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Now, when I stayed when I was less prosperous, so yeah, definitely a must visit. As I say, it was a royal palace for a very long time, and the French royal family, they lived here briefly just before the revolution. Of course, they had lived at Versailles, about 10 miles south of Paris. Don't want to recount the whole story of the French Revolution, but they're made to come and live here at Le Louvre. For a while they lived at the Tuileries Palace, which no longer exists. You see that triumphal arch? Beyond that was the Tuileries Palace, but it was destroyed by the Communards in 1871, just after the Franco-Prussian War, when the Communards, as in they were proto-communists, decided to make sure there would never be a monarchy again. They would destroy that. Well, they burnt it down, but obviously some of it was still left. And what to do with the charred remnants? The people toyed with the idea of rebuilding it, but in 1883 the cost was just monstrous, so it was decided to demolish what remained of it, and we got the Tuileries Gardens there. Now, there have been public gardens there for a long time, but obviously, as there's no palace in the middle, the gardens got rather larger. So it was meant to be a very hot day, like 39 Celsius today, but as you can see, fortunately, the cloud cover means it's not too bad. Okay, so Richelieu, this wing is called after the famous cardinal who was effectively Prime Minister of France, because he served served the king as well as serving the Catholic Church. So you could be both a minister of the crown and a churchman. Remember, cardinal is a very, very senior Catholic priest. So there's priest, bishop, archbishop, and the Pope at the top. Now, the Pope appoints cardinals. He can appoint this archbishop a cardinal, another archbishop. He might not appoint a cardinal. So whichever archbishops he wants to get to be cardinals. And of course, when the Pope dies, the cardinals will all congress in Rome to elect the next Pope, usually from one of their number. And you can see these statues up here of distinguished Frenchmen down the centuries, and indeed French women, and I shan't go through all of them. There's just so many of them. Now, obviously I don't know the story of that many of them. So what can I say? Very worth visiting, even if this little fountain isn't functional at the moment. So there's sandstone, this is kind of quite honey coloured. I remember when I first visited at the age of 7, it was rather off because it was much more pollution in those days. We didn't have our catalytic converters, we're still using leaded petrol, and it was just prohibitively expensive to clean the stone. But I'm very glad it has. Okay, and another pavilion called Colbert, a very significant figure in late 16th century France, time of the French Wars of Religion. Colbert, they were Protestants, the Huguenots in France. Well, the Protestants are known as the Huguenots for various reasons. So, well, there are theories that they have a leader called Hugues, and his followers are called Huguenots, or was it a bastardization of the French word, of the German word Eidgenossen, as in oath comrades? That's what the Swiss call themselves, and the Swiss, mostly Protestants, of course. Okay, so, and then we've got Suy, I think it's pronounced that, S-U-L-L-Y, right above my finger there, as in the Admiral, again a Huguenot. So the French Wars of Religion are fascinating. It's really about really 6 wars that take place in the 16th century between there's a 3-sided civil war. The Huguenots on one side of Protestants, the Catholic League on the other side, led by the Duke of Guise, and the French royal family in the middle. So yes, the French royal family were Catholics, but the Catholic League therefore was so mighty that they seemed to be challenging the king. And the Duke of Guise, Guise is a small town in the east of France, that was his support base. That sometimes the French royal family, despite being Catholics, took the side of the Huguenots against the Catholic League. So, 80% of the French population were Catholic, although that was the default setting. Unless you actually declared yourself to be a Protestant, people assumed that you were a Catholic. And then the Dutch and the English were intervening on the side of the Huguenots. The Spanish, sometimes on the side of the Catholic League, was fighting in Italy as well. It was all very complicated. And Henry IV, having been brought up a Huguenot, converted to Catholicism. Paris vaut bien une messe. Paris is worth a mass, and that allowed him to become King Henry IV. He's Henri de Navarre in the Pyrenees, in the extreme south of France, on the border with Spain, which is why the King of France became King of France and Navarre. We usually don't mention the Navarre. That's why, obviously, when the monarchy is abolished, the President of France, he's President of France and co-Prince of Andorra. Andorra, that tiny country nestled in the Pyrenees in between Spain and France, as 2 co-princes. The President of France is one co-prince, and the Bishop of Urgell is the other, as a small town in Catalonia. And there's so many more. There's Vauban, the famous military architect, wearing a hat up here. Yeah, that's him. These star forts, so that if your attackers can be fired on from at least 2 points at any one time. Very difficult to take all its bastions. Even if you did, you wouldn't be able to enfilade the whole line. And so many more of them, often wearing their wigs. So they're of the era. These are mostly people of the 16th and 17th centuries, when France was la grande nation, and just incredibly culturally influential. And so it was a bit like the United States or like Hollywood or something, insofar as almost everybody lapped up their culture, even those who were their enemies. So like, say, the Russian or even British aristocrats could speak French. If you were an educated gentleman in the 18th century, you could speak French anywhere in the European world. And you would do that even when you were at war against France. So many more. So Catherine de Medici, she was from Italy, the daughter of the Count of, I can't actually remember where. She married the King of France, and she's the mother of 3 kings, including Henry IV. No, sorry, not Henry IV, Henry III. And you can see La Reine Margot, in which she features. She's speaking French with an unmistakable Italian accent. So she began La Tuileries, the palace that was behind and no longer exists, on the far side of that, on the far side of the glass pyramid there. Anyway, so this bit is Pavilion Suy, now I'm not quite sure which Suy it is. It could have been one of the Huguenot leaders, or there was also an Archbishop of Paris, Suy, in the 12th century, around about 1160, and he's the one who said we got to build Notre Dame. It wasn't finished for 180 years. We might go and have a look at that later. So there's just so much detail to go into. Wish I could zoom in. You might see a gigantic N behind these bars, as in for Napoleon. So he had his huge first initial put everywhere, and he rebuilt quite a lot of Paris. In the late 9th century, Haussmann, that architect, he knocked down many historic areas. Often he thought they were rather shabby, and he laid out more boulevards, but also useful for the artillery if they wanted to kill revolutionaries. Because people talk about the French Revolution, 1789. Well, that doesn't really become a revolution until 1792. But anyway, France has had a number of revolutions. It's now the Fifth Republic. In between, they've had, well, certainly an empire, a couple of monarchies, and who knows what else. But the current dispensation has lasted since 1958, the longest to last for quite some time. Anyway, so it's just enormous. And come in May, there's a night of the museums when all across Europe museums are open through the night. So a good time to see things when it's less crowded, because if you're going around at 3 a.m. there won't be that many people, because the Mona Lisa is really high up and behind a screen, because there's always a huge crowd in front of it, people taking photos and things like that. So Napoleon Bonaparte, when in his various campaigns in Italy in the 1790s, he really liked plundering art treasures. But is looting the right word for it? Are these war reparations, arguably, and bringing them back here, stuffing them into Le Louvre and other galleries for his own aggrandizement? But I'm not sure if any of them were returned, actually. That's how the Mona Lisa came here. Because remember, he was obviously from Corsica, grew up speaking Corsu, which is the Corsican dialect of the Italian language. Only started to learn French at the age of 9, went to boarding school at Brienne. These minim monks taught him French, but so he's perhaps more Italian than French, and could never speak French flawlessly, or was making grammatical errors, which is why there are almost no written documents in his own hand, because he would dictate his letters and so forth and leave it to a secretary, a male, to silently correct his grammatical disagreements, subject, verb and so forth, if he found it difficult to conjugate verbs, things like that. Anyway, so that is just not even scratching the surface of Le Louvre, just seeing a bit of the exterior of it, but I hope it's giving you some idea how gargantuan it is. And then look up here. Do you see these angels? This topless lady on the left, and what she's due to receive. The other one holding out a hammer, and below various paint brushes and things like that. The lyre, is it? I think it's Athena, so various figures from classical mythology denoting cultural attainments. Anyway, what else can I say? So I think that's probably enough about Le Louvre, and there's a whole wing of it goes much larger over there. Yeah. You see where the buses come through, there's an archway through which traffic can drive, so it is gigantic. And on the other side of this is the river La Seine. So we're on the right bank of the river Seine, because tracing from the source of the Seine, the southern bank is the left bank, because if you're looking from the source going towards the sea, that's the left-hand side, and the right bank is the north bank of the river. So looking from the source going towards the sea, that's the right-hand side. So the left bank, especially a bit further that way, a bit further west, was thought to be a hotbed of revolutionary activities in the 60s. People with left bank and left wing opinions. But Paris is a large city, so it's difficult to generalize about what left bank and right bank is. It depends how far out you go from the center. So it would be unwise to go from the particular to the general. At least 37 bridges span the river. There's the celebrated Pont Neuf, which I might go to a bit later. There's the Lovers' Bridge, where people, to show their romantic love for another, they write their names on a lock and lock it onto the bridge. They wish to be locked together in perpetuity. All right, so that is probably about enough from Le Louvre. You see even more of it goes along here. And how many floors can you see? Is that 4 floors, and some of it is underground. It is an absolute treasure trove. Blow your mind. Obviously, some artistic fatigue sets in. You just can't absorb it. How many artworks can you really appreciate? So it's I reach my surfeit with art quite quickly, but some people would take more time to be satiated by it. So if your art saturation point takes a week, then Le Louvre is ideal. Just come here for the whole holiday doing that. All right, so the police are obviously after me. I better switch it off. Bye.